They said he was dead, but what if that was part of the plan? Asterisk because in the world of power, no one really stays gone, especially someone like Ghost. He was always 10 steps ahead, always planning, always controlling the game. So ask yourself, if Ghost wanted to disappear, could he have pulled it off? In the Power universe, there's one rule fans have learned to trust. If we don't see a body, then the story isn't over. And when it comes to Ghost, real name James St. Patrick, the ending of his story leaves behind more questions than answers. Asterisk, let's go back to the moment everything changed. Ghost was shot in Power Season 6, Episode 13. The scene was dramatic. He falls from the balcony at Truth nightclub after being shot in the chest. Blood on the floor, chaos all around. But here's what's strange. We never actually see a confirmed dead body. There's no open casket funeral, no final goodbye at a burial site. The camera never lingers on his lifeless body the way it has with other major deaths in the series. All we see is Ghost falling, and later reactions from others saying he's gone. But in TV and film, especially in crime dramas like Power, that doesn't always mean what it sounds like. Asterisk, compare this to other deaths in the series. When Kanan was killed, we saw everything. The fire, the gunshots, the aftermath. When Rhina died, we saw her body and the grief that followed. But with Ghost, it's left vague, suspiciously vague. It's almost as if the show wanted us to keep wondering. That type of storytelling doesn't happen by accident. Writers know that a character like Ghost is too important to simply kill off-screen. His death lacked the full closure a lead character normally gets, and that's what keeps fans asking, did he really die? Asterisk, now think about Ghost himself. Throughout Power, he was always calculating. Every move he made was part of a bigger strategy. He played politicians, drug dealers, friends, and enemies all at the same time. He even faked emotions when it helped him survive. Ghost was a man who built fake identities, ran businesses as cover-ups, and kept secrets from almost everyone. If anyone had the ability to fake his own death and vanish, it was James St. Patrick. Asterisk, some fans believe Ghost planned everything, that he saw death coming and staged it to escape the life he built. He had every reason to disappear. The feds were closing in, his enemies were stacking up, and his relationship with Tariq had reached a breaking point. He knew that his presence was making things worse, not better. So maybe, just maybe, Ghost saw one final opportunity to get out, to leave behind the street life, the danger, the pain, and start fresh somewhere else. A clean slate, but one that required the world to believe he was dead. Asterisk, there's also something worth pointing out. Ghost's last moments were seen through other characters' eyes, Tasha, Tommy, Tariq, but none of them actually saw him take his final breath. In fact, most of the information about his death comes from what people were told, not what they personally witnessed. That's important. In a series full of lies, betrayal, and setups, second-hand information is never reliable. It leaves the door wide open for surprises. Asterisk, and let's be honest, the Power universe thrives on shock value. Characters come back, past secrets return, and nothing ever stays buried. The idea that Ghost might still be alive, watching from the shadows, fits perfectly into the world Courtney Kemp and 50 Cent built. They've always loved playing with the audience's expectations, giving just enough clues to make you wonder, but never enough to be sure. Asterisk, some fans even point to how Ghost's death was used to fuel other stories, like Book 2. Ghost, as a reason why he might have been kept off-screen. If he had truly died, we might have seen a more dramatic goodbye. But instead, he became a mystery, a memory. And memories have a way of coming back to life. Asterisk, in the end, here's what we know. No one saw the body. No one confirmed his death with their own eyes. And for a man like Ghost, that might be all the proof we need that his story isn't finished yet. Asterisk, let's talk about something no one can ignore. Ghost's story never really ended. It just stopped. for a character who carried the entire Power series on his back, who spent 6 full seasons building an empire, fixing his image, and trying to break free from his criminal past. His final chapter feels incomplete. That's not just frustrating, it's suspicious. And it gives us a real reason to believe he's not done yet. Asterisk throughout Power, Ghost was chasing 2 things, freedom and legacy. He didn't just want to survive, he wanted to transform. From drug kingpin to nightclub owner, from criminal to politician. He wanted to be remembered as someone powerful, respected, and clean. He wanted to prove that people like him, people from the streets, could change the game without being taken down by it. That's why he ran for lieutenant governor. That's why he opened truth. That's why he tried so hard to leave Ghost behind and fully become James St. Patrick. But that transformation never fully happened. Just as he was about to reach the top, someone pulled the trigger. Asterisk so. Here's the question. Would the writers really let his story end like that? With betrayal from his own son, a broken family, and unfinished goals. Asterisk Ghost was trying to build a future, not just for himself, but for Tariq too. He didn't want his son to follow in his footsteps. He wanted Tariq to take the legit path, to get out of the streets and into real power. But by the end of Power, Tariq hated him. Their relationship was at its lowest. Ghost begged Tariq to do better, but Tariq saw him as a hypocrite. That tension, the father trying to save the son and the son refusing to be saved, was one of the strongest parts of the show, and yet we never got closure. Ghost never got the chance to guide Tariq through the tough decisions. He never. So whether Tariq would rise or fall, and Tariq never got to ask the questions or hear the answers that only Ghost could give him. Asterisk now imagine this. What if Ghost is still alive, waiting, watching, and letting Tariq figure it out alone? What if his disappearance was part of a bigger lesson? A way to force Tariq to grow, but also to protect him from the enemies they both made. That would be the ultimate Ghost move, faking death to give his son a real shot at freedom. And it would explain why he left behind such a detailed will, such a final message, not because he was ready to die, but because he planned to disappear. Asterisk, let's not forget about Tasha. Her relationship with Ghost was full of betrayal, secrets, and lies, but deep down, they still shared a bond. She knew him better than almost anyone, and yet her reaction to his death was strange. She mourned him, but quickly became more focused on protecting Tariq. She never tried to investigate further. Never asked the questions we all were asking. What if that's because she knows more than she let on? What if Ghost told her something, gave her a clue, before everything went down? Asterisk then there's Tommy, Ghost's best friend turned enemy turned something in between. Tommy was devastated by Ghost's death, but he also left town quickly. He started over in Power Book 4 Force, but his past still haunts him. And here's what matters. Ghost never got a final moment with Tommy. No real goodbye. No true resolution for a friendship that defined the original series. That silence is loud. If Ghost were to return, Tommy would have to face everything again. The pain, the loyalty, the truth. Asterisk and what about the political world Ghost was just starting to enter? He was aligned with powerful figures like Laurette Walsh, Rashad Tate, and Simon Stern. His campaign was gaining traction. He was about to become one of the most influential black men in New York. That storyline didn't just end, it was cut off. There's a real chance that the people Ghost connected with still have plans involving him. If he faked his death, he could still be pulling strings behind the scenes. Imagine the impact of him reappearing now with political knowledge, legal connections, and a hidden network of power. That would make him even more dangerous than before. Asterisk, let's also consider this. Ghost didn't just disappear, his impact stayed. Every show in the Power universe revolves around him. Tariq still carries his name and lives under his shadow. Tommy is still defined by their bond. Even Kanan's origin story in Raising Kanan connects back to the kind of man Ghost became. No other character's absence feels as present as Ghost's. That kind of storytelling is intentional. You don't build a world around a ghost unless you plan to bring him back. So when people say Ghost is gone, they're missing the point. His goals weren't finished. His relationships weren't resolved. His enemies weren't defeated, and that's why his story isn't over. To understand why Ghost could return, we have to look at something bigger than the character himself, the way Starz tell stories. Because if you've been paying attention to the Power universe, you'll notice a clear pattern. Characters never really stay gone. Death isn't always the end. In fact, sometimes it's just the beginning of a new chapter. And if Starz has done it before, they can absolutely do it again with Ghost. That move by Starz tells us one thing loud and clear. If a character is important enough, they will find a way to bring them back, whether it's through prequels, flashbacks, hallucinations, or surprise returns. They aren't afraid to rewrite the rules of death when it serves the story. And let's be honest, Ghost is even more iconic than Kanan. He's the face of the franchise. He's the heart of the original series. If they brought back Kanan, why wouldn't they bring back Ghost? Even look at Angela Valdez. After her death, she didn't just disappear from the narrative. She returned in visions, memories, and conversations long after her body was gone. She haunted Ghost's mind, literally. The writers used her character to explore his guilt, his trauma, and his choices. Her presence stayed alive through storytelling. Now ask yourself this: if they gave Angela that much space after death, imagine what they could do with Ghost. Another strong example is Tommy. After Ghost's death, Tommy left New York and got his own series, Power Book 4 Force. His character wasn't left behind. He evolved, got new enemies, new cities, new problems, and the fanbase followed him. That showed Starz one very important thing. Power characters have long-term value. Audiences are willing to stay invested if there's a good story and a strong connection. Ghost has both. People didn't stop caring about him after his last episode. If anything, interest only grew. His absence created more hype than some characters' actual appearances. Then there's the business side. Let's talk facts. Power is one of Starz's most successful franchises. It made the network a serious player in the streaming space. And who was at the center of that success? Omari Hardwick as James St. Patrick, Ghost. His return, even for a short arc or a final reveal, would shake the internet. It would trend on social media. Fans would rush to rewatch everything. The numbers would spike. And in the world of television, numbers talk. Streaming services, including Starz, are in a constant fight for attention. New content is dropping every day, but nostalgia sells. When a major character returns, it gives fans a reason to come back. Look at what happened with shows like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, or Game of Thrones spin-offs. Studios are learning that legacy characters hold power. Bringing back Ghost would be one of the biggest possible moves the franchise could make. But here's what's really clever about Starz. They've been hinting at this for a long time. Ghost's name is still in the title of Book 2. Ghost, his face appears in flashbacks. His voice appears in voiceovers. His impact is everywhere. That's not accidental. That's slow burn storytelling. It's like they're keeping him alive. Just enough so that if he returns, it won't feel like a stretch. It'll feel like a reward. And if Starz wanted to keep Ghost dead for good, they could have done what most shows do with dead characters. Fade them out. Stop mentioning them. Move on. But that hasn't happened. His story is still breathing in every corner of the Power universe. That suggests the writers and the network are keeping the door cracked open. They want us to wonder. They want us to keep guessing. Because when the moment finally comes, if Ghost walks back into frame, the reaction will be massive, shocking, viral, exactly what a network like Starz would want. So when people ask, could Ghost really return? The answer is simple. Absolutely. Not just because the fans want it. Not just because it would be good for the story. But because Starz has done it before, again and again. And if history tells us anything, it's this. In the Power universe, death is never final, especially for someone as powerful as Ghost. There's one person Ghost never truly left behind, his son, Tariq. Even if Ghost is physically gone, his presence still haunts every part of Tariq's life. Every move Tariq makes, every lie he tells, every deal he makes in the street, it all carries Ghost's shadow. And that's why the idea of Ghost returning isn't just about shock value or a surprise twist. It's about the emotional and psychological weight that Ghost still holds over his son. If Ghost comes back, it would hit the story in its deepest place, the father-son bond that's never really been healed. Let's start with the way Tariq is evolving. When Power Book 2, Ghost begins, he's trying to survive in a world he's not fully ready for. He's hustling, lying, manipulating people, building his own empire, just like his father did, and over time, we see him becoming more like Ghost in ways that are both brilliant and terrifying. He's strategic, cold when he needs to be, and always 5 steps ahead. He's trying to walk the line between the criminal world and the academic world, the same way Ghost tried to balance the drug game with the legit business world. The difference, Tariq doesn't have a mentor. He doesn't have someone to guide him the way Ghost once guided others. He's figuring it all out on his own, but still hearing Ghost's voice in his head. Literally. In several episodes of Book 2, we hear Ghost's voice in flashbacks or dreamlike sequences, his words echo in Tariq's mind. Sometimes it's advice. Sometimes it's judgment, but it's always there. That storytelling choice is huge. The writers could have left Ghost out, completely erased him like most ad characters. But they didn't. They used him as a kind of conscience, a memory that Tariq can't escape. That alone proves Ghost's story isn't done, because if a character's voice is still shaping the present, then they're not truly gone. They're still part of the world, and the door is still open for more. Now imagine this. What if those visions aren't just memories? What if they're leading up to something bigger, something real? What if Tariq's guilt, confusion, and hunger for power are building toward a moment where Ghost returns, not as a ghost in his head, but as a real, living presence? It wouldn't just be a twist, it would be an emotional earthquake. Because the moment Tariq sees his father alive, everything changes. His lies, his choices, his power, his identity, and that brings us to the heart of the matter. Tariq doesn't really know who he is yet. He thinks he's making his own way, but he's still trapped between who he wants to be and who Ghost was. In some ways, he's trying to prove that he's not his father, but in other ways, he's copying Ghost's move for move. That inner struggle, that push and pull, is the core of his character arc. And who better to force Tariq to face himself than the man he tried to erase? Let's be honest, Ghost's return would force a reckoning. It would bring the truth to the surface. Why did Tariq really pull the trigger? Was it hate, fear, pain? Or was it because he thought there was no other way out? If Ghost comes back, Tariq would have to face those choices in a way he never has before. He'd have to look his father in the eyes and answer for everything. And that kind of confrontation, the raw, emotional kind, is exactly what makes Power such a strong series. It would also give fans the closure they never got. Because like we've said, Ghost's death felt incomplete. We never got to see that final father-son moment, that last conversation. That deep, painful scene where Ghost and Tariq either make peace or go to war. If Ghost returns, that moment becomes possible again, and it could go in so many directions. Ghost could forgive Tariq. He could try to help him. Or he could come back angry, ready to show his son that actions have consequences. And here's another layer. What if Ghost is watching everything right now? What if he faked his death to see what Tariq would do when left alone? What if the will, the setup, the inheritance, all of it, was a test? That sounds far-fetched until you remember who Ghost was. A man who always played the long game. A man who trusted no one. A man who had backup plans for his backup plans. Maybe this whole thing was about seeing if Tariq could survive without him and what kind of man he'd become in the process. And finally, there's one thing that proves Ghost's return would matter more than ever. Power Book 2 is literally named after him. Not Tariq, not Tasha, not anyone else. Ghost, that title wasn't just a tribute, it was a promise. A promise that his legacy would shape the future, and the best way to fulfill that promise is to bring the man himself back, because Ghost isn't just a memory. He's not just a vision in Tariq's head. He's the force that shaped everything. And until that force returns in full, Power won't be finished. For years now, fans haven't just hoped Ghost would return, they've expected it. And that's not by accident. A big reason why this theory still lives is because of the man behind the role, Omari Hardwick. He hasn't stayed silent. In fact, some of the things he said have only fueled the fire. In multiple interviews, Omari has been careful with his words. When asked if Ghost is really dead, he never gives a simple yes or no. Instead, he says things like, never say never, or if the timing is right. That's not the language of a man who's finished with a role. That's the language of someone keeping the door cracked open, just enough for fans to keep talking. In 2022, he even said publicly that the creators did reach out about a possible return, but it wasn't the right time. That means conversations are happening. Quiet ones, but real ones. Let's break that down. If Omari truly believed Ghost's story was over, he could have shut down the rumors completely. He could have said he's gone, that chapter's closed, but he hasn't. Instead, he's left little clues, and the creators of Power, especially 50 Cent and Courtney Kemp, know the weight his words carry. Nothing in this franchise is said without purpose. So when Omari plays it mysterious, it's not just for fun. It's strategy. He faked his death and went into hiding. Others go deep. Ghost was working with the feds all along and staged a shooting to disappear under protection. Some say he's in Cuba, like a modern-day Tupac figure alive, watching from afar. Others believe he's hiding in plain sight, pulling strings in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to return. Then there's the fan base itself. Across Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter, theories about Ghost's survival continue to grow. Some are simple. He faked his death and went into hiding. Others go deep. Ghost was working with the feds all along and staged a shooting to disappear under protection. Some say he's in Cuba, like a modern-day Tupac figure, alive, watching from afar. Others believe he's hiding in plain sight, pulling strings in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to return. One theory even suggests that the version of Ghost who died wasn't Ghost at all, but a body double, or a twin brother. Yes, that's extreme, but in the Power universe, it's not impossible. These ideas might sound wild, but they're rooted in something real. The writers built Ghost to be smarter than everyone else. If anyone could pull off the impossible, it's him. And Starz hasn't shut these theories down. If anything, they've fed them. They keep dropping Ghost-related clues in Book 2 and Force. They use his name, his nightclub, his influence. They know Ghost still brings attention, and that means something important. His absence is profitable, but his return would be explosive. So, let's step back and look at the full picture. We never saw a body. We never got a final goodbye. His story was left open. His name is still in the title. Omari's interviews are full of mystery. And fans are more obsessed now than ever. Put all that together, and what do you get? Asterisk a comeback waiting to happen. Asterisk because power is a world built on legacy. And Ghost's legacy isn't finished yet. He shaped the lives of everyone around him, Tariq, Tasha, Tommy, Brayden, even the villains. Like Sax and Tate, he was the center of the storm. You can't talk about power, survival, and control without talking about Ghost. His fingerprints are still all over this universe. Asterisk, so now the only real question is, when? Asterisk will Ghost return as a secret puppet master, revealed at the end of a season? Will he show up in a flashback with new context that changes everything we thought we knew? Or will he walk through a door alive, silent, powerful, just like he's done so many times before? Asterisk, no one knows for sure. Asterisk, but what we do know is this. In power, Ghost was never just a man. He was a symbol of ambition, of danger, of evolution. And you can bury a man, but you can't bury a symbol. Asterisk, so maybe Ghost is coming back. Asterisk, or maybe he never left. Asterisk.